continuation of the budget hearing for the fiscal year 2021. I think we'll give a couple of minutes for Member Karbasi to come into the room. Do we have Member Esparza online?
Yeah, present.
Thank you, Member Esparza. For the general public, my apologies on the late start at 10 a.m. I am hopeful that the additional hour allowed the public to review all the budget motions and the budget directions that were uploaded to the city clerk's website. I know I got some Twitter feedback that it was not uploaded as backup material. That has been uploaded, so you're free to go to the city clerk's website on the agenda for today's meeting, and you'll see a copy of all the motions as of the last budget hearing we had. So council, I would like to spend a couple of minutes taking additional public comment before we engage in the budget motions. I know we've already taken quite a bit of public comment, but given the conditions that we find ourselves in with multiple budget deliberations in one calendar year, I think that would be really helpful for the general public. So at this time, any member of the public wishing to address the council on the budget motions before the council or the budgets as presented by staff, please raise your hand on Zoom or come forward in person. We will start with Sam Frank. You've been unmuted. You'll have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hi, Council Member Arias and other council persons. I just wish to express our support for moving the copy center from finance to the city clerk's office. I think that would be a good move and a good fit, and I know that my members working there would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. The next person, Ivanka Sanders. You've been unmuted.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to reiterate our requests and some motions we have. My name is Ivanka Sanders with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. We're still asking that there be funds to help stabilize the Fresno housing crisis and using funds from both general fund and CARES funding for an affordable housing trust fund and a right to counsel. We're also hoping that you can request requesting funds for public services in disadvantaged communities to be funded in the prevention of the illegal dumping. And we appreciate you, Council Member Arias, for the motion for a truck reroute study. And as well as for the police. For years, the public has called for funding to support programs and services that are related to youth, recreation, mental health, and homelessness. Instead, this current budget is adding $13 million to police department's already inflated budget. We even have a chief police admitting to his officers aren't giving 100% in fighting crime. And in a response, this council is adding even more funding to that department. This is just not in line with your constituents, which they have been stating, and it needs to include from budget hearings from June what was stated. And for the parks, we're hoping that you can still increase the general fund allocation for parks by 4% to bring the total general fund up to 10%. We appreciate you, President Arias, for your motion of $5 million. However, if the city wants to systemically improve our park system overall, the Parks Master Plan, this cannot be a one-time commitment. Moreover, this allocation can't be directed to covering the incoming costs of the graffiti team. And if you could please clarify for the public which motions out of the June budget hearings will be included or listed with the current hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is James.
Hello, I'm Jim Mendez. I would like to encourage the City Council to establish the COVID-19 Emergency Legal Defense Fund as a phase one of a citywide right to counsel program. We are in a difficult time with decreasing tax revenue and increasing social needs. The COVID-19 epidemic is continuing to strain the Fresno economy until the virus is controlled. We cannot safely have everyone who is willing and able to return to work do so. If people are not able to be employed safely, we will not be able to expand our economy. As a result of not being able to work, a number of residents of Fresno are having difficulty paying their rent, which has led to increased evictions. These evictions will lead to increased number of homelessness and families that are homeless, which we can't avoid. While landlords are dependent on rental income to pay their own mortgages and to maintain their profits, they are usually in a better position financially to make it through these difficult times without becoming homeless. During the eviction process, the majority of Fresno landlords have access to legal representation, whereas less than 1% of families have an attorney in eviction court. Tenants who have a lawyer in eviction proceedings are much less likely to be evicted and much less likely to avoid homelessness. I would like to ask the City Council to create a comprehensive plan that includes the right to counsel for those that are at risk of being evicted. Thank you very much.
Next is Amber.
Amber, you have the floor.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Amber Corral. I'm Assistant Professor of Sociology at Fresno State and Regional Housing Coordinator for Faith in the Valley. Over the past year, I and my colleagues have been studying the eviction crisis in Fresno County. And one of the most glaring issues is that tenants almost always go through the eviction process without legal representation of any sort. Only an estimated 1% of tenants have attorneys in Fresno County, according to our study. This is compared to 73% of landlords who have attorneys, contributing to a major injustice within the courtroom. Housing law is complicated, and the eviction process is full of steps where errors and deadlines can be missed. Without legal representation, tenants are set up to lose even when they have a legitimate defense to stay in their homes. Tenants are at an increased risk of being illegally evicted or being evicted when a negotiated agreement between attorneys would better serve both parties. Now with COVID-19, we have AB 3088, which provides tenants with stronger defense against eviction, protecting them from displacement due to COVID-19. But the law is new and it is confusing. It requires expert knowledge of the steps that need to be taken and the documentation that needs to be filed. It requires being familiar with the steps of the eviction process, of which there are many. Do you know all of the steps and deadlines of the eviction process? Do you really expect tenants to know? Would you all be able to explain to me how AB 3088 works and what it requires? And do you really expect tenants to know? Without legal representation, tenants cannot access their full rights under this law because they need attorneys with expertise in housing law who can help them navigate this complicated process. Please fund a civil right to counsel for tenants in eviction court to protect the rights that they have under law and keep families in their homes. Especially now, we do not need more families losing their housing if we can avoid it. Fresno's severe housing crisis existed prior to COVID-19, and we are at risk of seeing it get worse unless we do what we can to enforce and support the laws put in place to protect the homes of renters. Thank you.
Next person is Janine.
Good morning, Council. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Dr. Janine Nkosi, and I'm here today to uplift one of the community budget priorities in the letter that we submitted to you all in June, to allocate money to establish an emergency legal fund. As you know, so many of our families are really hurting right now. They're being impacted by the fallout of COVID-19 at no fault of their own. Families are losing their jobs, their hours are being cut back, and they are just struggling to make all of the ends meet. I'm here on behalf of the 99% of tenants, of which our research shows that there are thousands every year who are evicted from their homes, who are stressed out, who go to the courthouse in a panic, really, trying to do everything to save their homes. 99% of tenants who are served with any kind of eviction notice, and the many who are served with illegal eviction notices, do not have legal representation. I'm here on behalf of the many stressed out tenants that I have encountered and sat with in eviction court. The mothers of small children, the seniors, folks who are disabled, the very vulnerable tenants who are sitting in eviction court, lost, confused, unaware of what their rights are, the tenants who show up to court thinking that they have all of the documentation that they need in order to fight their case, but the courts are black and white. And so I have seen so many tenants that show up trying to fight their case, but don't have the knowledge of the legal system to stand up against a very skilled, a very savvy landlord attorney, and so they lose their cases. And so I'm here today to urge you to establish a COVID-19 legal defense fund that would be the beginning step of a citywide right to counsel so that we can protect the many, many, many vulnerable renters who at no fault of their own are being impacted by the fallout of COVID. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Doctor. Next person is Grecia. Let's move on to the next speaker. Dalmira.
Hello, my name is Dalmira Jimenez. I am here on behalf of a coalition of renters, Fresno State students and professors, and community organizers who care about our community. We believe that a right to counsel will prevent homelessness and benefit thousands of vulnerable renters, especially small children and the elderly. Housing is a fundamental human need, and we believe that everyone has a right to safe and healthy housing. Elected leaders like you all pass laws to protect tenants, but laws are complex, and oftentimes tenants don't even know when protections are passed. Evictions also move very quickly through the courts. Even though many tenants have legal rights that would keep them in their homes, they lack knowledge of those rights, and they lack the power or ability to successfully advocate on their own behalf. As a result, their rights are almost valueless. Nationally, research shows that the majority of landlords have access to legal representation, while less than 10% of tenants do. In Fresno, the disparities are even greater for tenants. Less than 1% of families have an attorney in eviction court, but 76% of landlords do. Tenants don't stand a chance against experienced attorneys even when they've done nothing wrong. But research shows that tenants who have a lawyer in eviction proceedings are much less likely to be evicted and much more likely to achieve long-term housing stability. The best way to prevent homelessness is to keep people in their current housing, and one of the most effective ways to do that is through a right to counsel that intervenes before families are evicted. Civil right to counsel ensures that every eligible tenant has a right to an attorney when their housing is at stake. Right to counsel ensures that tenants' rights are upheld and their voices are heard in eviction cases. Thank you.
Thank you. The last speaker today is Grecia.
Good morning, Council. I hope you can hear me right now. My name is Grecia Lenes. I'm with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. I, too, would like to echo support on the Right to Counsel program to support half of Fresno residents who are renters. The need for legal support and guidance is urgent right now. Though we appreciate and commend this council for setting in place an emergency order to protect residential and commercial tenants at the beginning of this pandemic, these laws, along with the complex AB 3088, as Dr. Nkosi and Dr. Cromwell have mentioned before, will be in vain unless people actually know about them, they know their basic rights, and they have someone to support them and manage the intricate legal system that currently exists. Additionally, we would also like to support and thank Council President Arias for his motion for a truck reroute study. Trucks going in and out of neighborhoods, especially residential ones, continues to this day to be a high priority for South Fresno residents, where heavy land uses have been discriminately placed. And lastly, I would also like to make a comment regarding the comprehensive impact analysis. We hope the council also includes in this motion to do a true environmental and public health cost of the general plan land use and development policies. This will ensure that we have proper racial equity impacts and an analysis of those to ensure that we do not continue to perpetuate the racist policies and perpetuate the cycle of poverty that we see today that land use practices and the general plans have done to our community. And so we urge the council to address those issues in that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all our public speakers for today. Let's go. Actually, I thought I saw one more. Alexandria, you'll be the last speaker.
Hello, Council. My name is Alexandra Alvarado. I'm a community organizer with Faith in the Valley. A typical step before homelessness is displacement, often triggered by eviction or threat of eviction. Tenants are forced out of their homes via intimidation, harassment, illegal evictions, or more. Nearly 10,000 families in Fresno County are forced to move from their homes every year, in part because tenants are set up to fail in housing court. Families and individuals now more than ever need a place to call home, a safe and affordable place for shelter. I want many to be proud to call Fresno their home, a place where families are not afraid of displacement and unlawful evictions, and can be a part of a growing, healthy community. Along with other Fresno community members, I want to urge City Council to establish a COVID-19 Emergency Legal Defense Fund as phase one of a citywide right to counsel. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, council, I'm going to bring it back up to the dais, and hopefully we can agree on some basic procedural stuff for the motions. My thought is to start off with any new motions so that we give our staff sufficient time to write the motions down, get them accurately printed. So I would ask that if you have any new motions, you not only, when it's your turn to make the motion, you make it, but you also provide the city clerk or have your staff provide them an email immediately or a paper copy of your motions so that city clerk and staff can accurately record the motions. We will then probably take a 20-minute break to make sure they have sufficient time to type them up, and then we'll come back and do a vote on all the motions, if that works for everyone. That makes sense? And we will also hear from our fire chief, who I know we directed to come back with their presentation for one of the motions, so we will also hear from the fire chief during this time. If that is with the council, fire chief, you'll be the first one in the firing squad. Come on up. Yeah. And council, when we start with new motions, I'm going to start off with Councilmember Esparza, who's joined us virtually, and then I'll go from my left to my right in order for any new motions. Fire Chief, if I recall, there was a motion on the floor to direct you to come back with an expenditure plan for $2.2 million of ongoing resources that were represented by the increase in fire inspection fees that some of my colleagues are also helping contribute to that cause. So, Fire Chief, you have the floor.
Let me just forward an email to Yvonne that has this information so Councilmember Esparza can see it.
Thank you, Chief, for making sure our colleague can see the document.
I'll just send it to him too.
City Clerk, can you put this on the actual screen where the members of the public can also see what it is that we're reviewing once it's emailed to you? That's fine.
I sent it to Yvonne and to Councilmember Esparza just now.
Thank you,
Send it to
Chief.
Oh, sorry.
Before we start with the chief, and while we get her items on the screen for the public to see, Mayor, do you have any words for the council before we start spending all the money?
Be wise, be patient. The difference between now and the budget is on the regular budget, we approved the continuing resolution. I had the opportunity of a line item veto. I still have a veto power, but there's no line item. So asking for everybody to work together so we can get everything we can all at least majority agree upon and pass the budget. I hate to veto something over one item when we have 9 out of 10 that are right. So let's work together.
Thank you. And for the record, City Manager, we're still waiting for the detailed budget information that you guys committed to getting us yesterday. So just let you know, we haven't received it yet. So
as soon as we're done this morning, Henry will be sending it out.
Perfect.
Okay.
That will work perfectly for the timing of our continuing budget process.
Great, thank you.
So thank you for the additional work, Henry, and for not hiding the money. City Clerk, are we ready to go? All right. So I'm going to turn it over before you start, Chief, to my colleagues who made the motion for fire. And if I recall, that was my colleague, Councilman Soria, And Councilmember Bradfield, is there any opening words before the chief presents her proposal? All right, we're just buying time for our city clerk to put up the document.
Okay.
So I think we're good.
Okay. So your direction was to provide some feedback as to what improvements could be made with the designated 2.2 million. It's a little bit less than that, so we're just using that as a round number, but it was less than that by about 25,000. And the commensurate services that the fee increase was supposed to realize. So the recommendation is a combination of both ongoing cost and then some one-time capital items in FY21. First is to apply for 42 firefighters in the next SAFER grant. That will be divided into two recruit classes, one in FY21 and one in FY22. The FY21 ongoing costs for the 21 firefighters, as you see, is $586,000. Those three positions, the conversion of the staff captain is 50. The add one account auditor is 66. Add a GIS specialist is 109. These include all benefits and roll-ups. And in there was a conversion of a senior accountant to a senior analyst. That's something that we didn't discuss, but I wanted to just bring it top of mind in this discussion.
Chief, before we go on to the next one-time capital projects, I had a couple of questions. Conversion of a staff captain to staff BC and lease payment, $50,000. The lease payment, what does that sentence mean?
That's for a vehicle. A lease payment for an apparatus, a vehicle.
You mean like a pickup truck?
Correct.
Okay. And then how many account auditors do you have now?
We have one.
And then the GIS specialist?
We have 0. We have a staff captain that is trying to do that function. But when you look at that, paying a sworn safety member to come in on a 40-hour to try and learn a skill isn't the best approach.
And that member who's doing it now has a salary of more than $109,000.
Correct.
Yeah, I see your point on the economics of that to call.
So really we're looking to convert the current staff captain that's doing that GIS or attempting to do it to the staff BC, and then we would fill it with a civilian GIS.
Okay, thank you for the clarity. Appreciate it.
And then Chief, if you could speak to the need in terms of the account auditor, since if this council moves to add the additional 40 plus firefighters, what that does. I know that last time you spoke to the need with the existing staffing that you have, but just the greater need that it creates.
Sure. Just to recap, we have the most complex payroll in the city of any department, yet we have the least number of payroll staff to complete that task.
Why do you say it's the most complex?
Because of our 24-hour shifts, it's much different. You can check that with budget and with finance. The people that have been there for years.
I'm not doubting your word. I just wanted to understand it.
Yeah, it's the 24-hour shifts and then all of the MOUs that are included in that, the 40-hour versus the 56-hour, FLSA, the time off, et cetera, et cetera. So it's quite a spool up to get people on board to understand how to do that.
I imagine each individual member of your department, the hours would vary. Some will work more overtime, less overtime, whatever the situation may be, which adds to the complexity.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And then going forward, when you add 42 firefighters, we're already at a low number. When you add 42 more people, we're adding more load onto the existing 3 people that are running our payroll department. So I think it's a reasonable request, and it's been in our request for the last 4 years. That ongoing cost is $822. Obviously, we were shooting for somewhere around 2.2. And so that's why my recommendation was to plug in some one-time capital improvements. Some of these we really have to do, including the drill yard and repairs to the toilet facilities, the showers, the repairs on the drill yard itself, some lockers, we approximate around 90,000 to get that ready to go for some drill schools. And then we project an open entry-level test to have about 1,000 applicants. That will require us to hire a company to prepare a written test, and that's an estimate of about 10,000. Some of these others, 3 through 6, are some target numbers that we have used in the past that we think is what they might cost to get architectural plans for a station, possibly a training facility, relocate the gate at Kern Street, I'm sorry, for Tulare to Kern Street. And then something we've always been earmarking in the last at least 3 budgets was some body armor for our firefighters. That means 4 sets on each apparatus, not one assigned to every firefighter, but rather something they could use if needed on duty. That total comes to 1.1 million and change in FY21. I'm sorry, 1.9 when you add those two together. Then you roll into FY22. How does this all fit? The carryover from FY21 is the 862 for the increase, firefighter step increases that aren't covered by the grant. And then positions 2 through 5 is 236. That's a total of 1,098,000. And then you add the 21 firefighters that we applied for in the grant for the second drill school. It is a longer drill school, which is required to have an open recruitment and teach people to be a firefighter, which we were hoping to cast a wider net in inclusivity to our department. That ongoing cost is around 2.26. And then we kind of covered in this proposal every area of the department for improvement, to improve services for our citizenry and for the department. The only area that we didn't touch was prevention, but I think we can get there for now by having the council approve the allowing us to fill our current vacancies at the fire prevention positions. We have 4 vacancies, and if we can move forward with the hiring of those folks so they can generate the revenue that we speak of.
Have those been frozen, or what's the status? How long have they been vacant?
Gosh, I want to say it was around 180 days. We are prepared to hire. We have interviewed. We have backgrounded. We are prepared to hire whenever we get a green light.
What's that time frame? It would get you from in terms of hiring to get them on board.
Well, they're doing backgrounds right now, so I would say within 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we would be prepared to bring them on board.
Henry, is this are these positions funded currently, even though they've been frozen in the existing budget?
And Henry, if you may explain the term frozen or held up, because I remember this council approved a 1-month hiring freeze. After that, we didn't have any other freeze of any kind. So has the administration set their own hiring freeze?
Well, Henry Fierro, Budget Manager. There was a hiring free policy that was in place starting March 27th. It did exclude, though, sworn positions. So based on the critical need, that would be moving forward. As far as these frozen positions, Chief, specifically, what were their job class?
They're entry-level fire inspectors. So they're the ones that go out and do the inspections, that conduct that
So they're
generate the
civilian
revenue.
positions?
They're sworn civilians.
Okay. So with that,
I understand from the personnel department that we're moving forward with 3 of them right now.
We have 3 that have interviewed. We're in background, but we can't do anything until we have a green light to offer them a job and bring them on.
You have the green light.
Great.
Perfect.
One
So
less
on
problem
all
solved.
4?
Carrie, I wish we would have seen this in advance. I'm a little caught off guard right now. So I would have been able to have answers to some of the council's questions had we seen this in advance. But I just talked to personnel department, and I understand that they have a requisition in for 3 positions, and we're able to move forward with those. As soon as you submit the other one, we can do that as well. So you have the green light on all 4.
Okay.
Hey, Chief, what do we have right now in terms of inspectors, fire inspectors?
I believe we have 13 That includes seniors.
Yeah, but we need more. I know projects over the last 2 years have stalled because of the lack of fire inspectors. So these would be essentially revenue-generating positions, correct?
That is correct. Those are the positions that help generate the revenue we're speaking of.
So you believe 4 would cover the gap?
Well, I think that it's something we can look at to add more, because we always are pressing up against the money-back guarantee and the timelines. However, let's fill the vacancies first and get those 3 or 4 up and running, and then we can look at adding more.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a conversation that we can have as we continue to look at the budget in a few months from now next year or before, if we in fact do need the additional inspectors. I'm constantly hearing from the development community that, you know, some of the holdup is that they're waiting for inspection, both building inspectors and as well as the fire inspectors. So I believe that they are critical positions. So I'm glad that there's clarification. And I think a lot of the confusion really has been that this council has been concerned about the vacancies and not being filled. And if they're not being filled, then this is our opportunity to kind of remove those vacancies, because if we're not going to prioritize them. But I'm glad to hear, and I know that as a council we're supportive of making those steps forward to fill these vacancies. Thank you, Chief, for that.
Chief, if I may just ask for your consideration, a lot of the complaints I get are from small businesses who are doing renovations right now during their shutdown, and the biggest hiccup is the fire inspectors are not showing up, or it's a long wait for a fire inspector, so they can't finish their building permit. So if you could make sure that all those businesses that are currently shut down and under renovations, if you can prioritize those, because those restaurants are going to be critical when we reopen, and the longer their renovations take and construction takes because of inspection, the longer they're going to hurt. So if you can just be mindful of the small businesses.
Understood.
And then I also just wanted to add one last comment. I know that you alluded to the fact that having a longer period for the second academy would, with the goal of, in my thinking, diversifying our fire department, because there is a lack of diversity. That's just the reality, right? And I think that we have to figure out, beyond making it longer, what are those steps that the department is going to take and that the city is going to take to really make sure that our firefighters are diverse for our city, both when it comes to gender diversity. I know that you have been a champion for that, but it is hard to recruit women for fire. So thinking about, you know, what can we do as a city beyond the longer time period that we'll have to really intentfully recruit, and hopefully recruit people from our local community, from 93706, 93728, from those neighborhoods that, you know, we know that these folks, you know, also should be warranted the opportunity to be reached out to.
I agree.
Are those all the questions for the fire chief? All right, Fire Chief, I think you have your green light for your positions, and thank you for your presentation on the allocation.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Council, if you guys are prepared, we can begin considering new motions at this time. And I will start with Councilmember Esparza. Do you have any new motions to offer?
Yeah, you know, listening to some of the public speakers, as well as the of the different letters and such they've sent us over the past several months, I think the right to counsel certainly deserves some conversation by the council, some exploration. So I'd like to make a motion that we explore a right to counsel program here in the city of Fresno. Put that in the hopper for discussion later on today.
Is there a second to the council member's motion to explore a right to counsel?
I have a question for clarification. What would that exactly mean? We're going to have a conversation right now as a council to see if we want to move forward, or are you recommending that council explore a policy and bring it back as part of the overall budget, and figuring out where within the housing dollars that are available that would be? I'd just like a little bit more clarification in terms of what your motion is intending to do.
The motion is intended to start a conversation this morning, or later on as we're going through the motions in the hopper. So at this point, there aren't specifics, But it's something we should talk through. It's not anything I've discussed with any of my colleagues thus far at this point.
I'll
I'm not
second
sure
you for
where-
the purpose of conversation. Yeah.
All right, if I understand the motion is to explore the conversation and add it to the motions that we will eventually vote and then discuss individually later today. All right, there's a motion by Member Esparza, second by Member Soria. Council Vice President, you have a question?
I'm a little confused. It didn't sound like a motion. It sounded like he just wanted to discuss, as we discuss these other items today, before we make a motion. But Member Esparza, is that correct? Or do you actually, I didn't hear you say motion, but it evolved to a motion. Was that your intention?
My intention was a motion to at least consider what is being brought forth to us by the different range of public speakers. And so the motion again is to explore a right to counsel program, and again talk through what some of our preferences and concerns might be as a council here today, since that's not a conversation that we've really had publicly.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
All right, any other motions, Councilmember Esparza?
Not at this point.
Thank you. I'll go to my council colleague, Member Chavez, to my left. Not to be confused to the left of politics.
No motions, seeing that the price tag is getting bigger by the moment.
All right, we'll go to Dr. Bretterfield to my left.
No, I don't have any motions.
All right, we'll pursue with Councilwoman Soria to my right.
Of course I have motions. So I want to make a motion. I know that we're going to have a conversation about the right to counsel, but I think what this council has done over the last few months regarding preventing evictions is a topic that we need to further discuss and have actually allocated funding. I know the Federal CARES Act has provided that safety net through December, but what I would like to motion is that we ensure we prioritize money to prevent evictions by providing financial assistance beyond December 2020 through housing retention grants, so that we extend that program. And then two, use part of those funds to launch a campaign so folks know, their rights and the policies that we've passed as a council that protects them. I would ask my colleagues to consider utilizing. We haven't outlined what we will use with the CDBG dollars that we were given, so this may be an opportunity, CDBG and or general fund savings from those unfilled positions that will go vacant over the next few months, because as we all know, even though we allocate the dollars, it takes a few months to onboard people, so there'll be some savings there when it comes to those positions.
Councilwoman, can you, for the record, clarify your motion?
So my motion is to ensure we prioritize dollars to prevent evictions by providing financial assistance beyond December 2020 through the housing retention grants, funding it through CDBG and or general fund savings from unfilled positions.
Is there a second for the Councilwoman's
Council
motion?
President, can I add one thing? On and Tim, you can correct, on funding to general fund savings on positions, is that not calculated already under attrition? So it's already assumed that these positions will have money that will be there, so there's really no new money. It's there. It's part of what we're balancing right now.
If you allow me, Mayor, today we're just going to at least see what motions have seconds, and then we'll get back to debate each motion individually. So is there a second for Councilman Soria's motion? I will second it for the purpose of discussion. Any other motions, Councilwoman?
Those are my motions at the moment. Are you doing the position?
Yes.
Okay, I'll wait for you then.
Council Vice President Carpio, any motions to consider?
Thank you, Council President. Not for me. I think I've got enough motions and enough on my plate to conclude in the next 3 or 4 months of my tenure here, including all the projects that you all have helped me secure and finance. However, I'd like to reserve the right to bring a motion later. I've been in communication with Council Member-elect Tyler Maxwell, and I've asked him several times to submit motions to me, since this budget will be affecting him and his tenure as opposed to my time. So, and I haven't heard from him, so once I do, I'd like to reserve the right to bring those forward if, in fact, there are already additional motions.
All right, Council Vice President, your rights are reserved until we do a final adoption of the budget. Thank you for the record. Councilmember Carbasi, any new motions for consideration?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 3. First, I'd like to allocate $100,000 to the planning department to lay the groundwork for a cottage home program to help pay for associated startup costs. This includes like necessary code updates, plans and that meet the development code, so they can be approved quickly.
Second.
That's my motion. Okay, thank you. My next motion, there was a motion, motion number 7, to create 2 CSO positions in the fiscal year 21 budget. And I believe it was by Council Vice President Capriolio and Council Members Esparza. What I'd like to do is I'd like to make a motion to actually allocate those 2 CSOs to be funded through DPU to help with issues like illegal dumping. And then I'd like to free up money in the general fund to allocate funding in the general fund for 2 additional police officers to help with the crime wave that we're having.
With that in mind, Council President, I would withdraw my motion that's scheduled today, number 7,
Okay.
and that I would defer a new motion to my colleague as he has just recited, and I would second his motion.
Thank you.
All right, Council Vice President, we have your motion to withdraw, motion number 7. Is there agreement with the second of the motion, Member Esparza?
I don't think I need to, I think that's a whole new motion now with Councilmember Carbasi and Council President Capriolio.
All right, so we will, motion number 7 is withdrawn for the record.
And then
Motion,
in substitution thereof would be the motion by Member Carbasi, or we could add it at the end, whichever suits your
a
agenda.
motion has been made by Member Carbasi and it's been seconded by you, so that is one additional motion that we'll consider this afternoon.
Thank you.
Council President,
Yes.
I'll go ahead and what I'll do is I will introduce a brand new motion identical to the previous one. So that would be to add 2 CSO positions to the Fresno Police Department.
You know what? I'd second that as well. I just want CSOs. However we get them, let's get them. So if it's through motion by Member Carbasi and or your motion, I think it's important.
What
so
I
I'll
would
second
ask my colleagues is during the break that we take, if you 3 can get on the same page and then come back to us with one single motion, that would be great. I think we all hear the intent, which is 2 additional CSOs and 2 additional sworn officers.
Right, I'd like more than that, but we'll get together and try to
Okay.
figure that out, Council President.
We have your second motion for the record, Member Carbasi. Is there a third?
Yes, there is. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'd like to allocate $250,000 towards improvements at Logan Park, including a complete irrigation system upgrade and a tot lot safety repair. That tot lot's in really bad shape.
Is there a second for Member Carbasi's motion for $250,000 for Logan Park?
Second.
We'll do a second by Member Nelson Esparza. Jim, do you have anything to add?
Just real quick, was that estimate provided by our staff?
I did meet with staff out there. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Council, and just one consideration that I ask you guys to take. I know there's individual motions for parks projects. We do have a motion of $5 million in the parks, so those might be able to be combined and paid for through that motion. All right. With that, if there's any other motions from the council, I will describe my 3 motions for the morning.
Council President, I just had a question. Are we going to get to discuss if we had questions on some of the motions
Yes.
later, or should we do now?
We will, when we get to each motion, we will discuss the merits of each motion. All right. So I do have 3 motions. One motion is related to the position authorization resolution, and the motion is to that the position authorization resolution contain only those positions the council approved along with the FY21 budget in June, plus those positions the council approved since June 30th, and the positions approved pursuant to council motions, whether we added, removed, or transferred during the revised budget process. That is my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that. And could we make sure that any also vacant positions over a year be addressed, since they haven't been filled over a year? We should see those savings in this budget.
All right.
Can you define what you mean by addressed? Do you mean filled?
Well,
Do you mean?
So since they haven't been filled, then we eliminate them. That would be my amendment to your motion.
Which, so just to be clear, you want to eliminate any vacant positions that have been vacant for more than a year? Is that all positions, or do you want to set aside public safety positions? I know we have some that are routinely vacant.
That's fine. If you guys want to eliminate that, I just want to make sure that if there have been, and I think that has been the discussion, there's a number of positions vacant for over a year, and if we haven't prioritized in filling them, then we should eliminate them.
Okay, so the motion is to limit the position authorization resolution to the positions that have been approved by council, either in the June budget, in the revised budget, or in the budget motions, and to remove any vacant positions vacant for more than a year, exempting any public safety positions.
Look, can I make a comment?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I understand the intention, but I think there may be some unintended consequences if we eliminate positions that have been vacant. There's a myriad of reasons why they may have been vacant. Some of them may be that the position is not needed, but there may be other positions that clearly are needed that have been difficult to be filled. And then if we eliminate the position, we then have a problem in trying to create that position again. So I just think it's something we ought to be thoughtful about, because we don't know, simply just making a blanket policy that we're going to eliminate anything that hasn't been filled in a year may have some drawbacks to it.
Councilmember, and I'm open to that discussion, and I'm open to hearing from staff too when we discuss that motion individually.
I just want to clarify. So when we mention public safety, are we, to clarify, are we talking about all police and fire positions?
Police, fire, and code enforcement, anybody related to public safety.
Sworn and unsworn?
Yes. All right, if we can move on to the next motion.
Council President?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Where am
Henry
I?
Fierro.
That way, sorry.
I just want to make sure I'm clear on your motion, so, and correct me if I'm wrong. So what I'm hearing is you want, the motion is to limit the PAR based on the June positions that were approved by council, plus any amendments that have taken place thereafter.
Approved by council.
Approved by council, and then potentially any motions that are approved.
Correct.
Through this process.
Correct. So in essence, Henry, I don't want to see a bunch of administrative positions added to the PAR that have not been explicitly approved by council.
Okay. And then in addition to that, there is also language related to vacant positions.
Vacant positions more than a year vacant that are not related to public safety.
And again, if they are in the process by the department to be filled, those should stay intact, correct?
We can discuss that when we get to that point. Those are the kind of details I'd like to hear from staff so that we can reach whatever conclusions in the best interest of the city.
Thank you.
All right, council, my next motion is to direct the city manager to prioritize and process all digital billboard applications for approval in the next 30 days. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Second by member Soria. And my last motion is to reallocate the money for the money back guarantee program to fund grocery store incentives. Is there a second for that? Second by member Carbasi. All right, council, so we...
President?
Council President, will you repeat your second motion? That was quick.
Sure. The last motion is to reallocate the funds for the money back guarantee program to fund a grocery store incentive program.
No, sorry, the second, not the third motion.
Is to direct the city manager to prioritize and process all digital billboard applications for approval in the next 30 days.
Council President, I just wanted to add, in my area, and I know that you brought it up, McKinley and Blackstone, that there is a billboard right in front of the housing development. I'd like to include within your motion that we work with Outfront Media to eliminate that and find an alternative location to address the removal of that standstill billboard.
I'm open to that amendment. All right, so there's motion second. Council, we've now made all the additional motions. My thinking is that we do a 20-minute recess, make sure the city clerk has all the motions, and we come back at 11:20 to start voting on individual motions. We will start off in the order, 1 through 25, with the latest motions added to the end of the list. All right, we'll see you in 20 minutes after the 20-minute recess.
Council President, I'm sorry, one last question. If all possible, if the council members who have made motions with seconds, if they can send that in writing, that would be very helpful.
Thank you. Please send all your motions to the city clerk, Yvonne, to Henry, and to our city manager and city attorney, please.
Council President?
Yes.
On some of these items, like on DPU Enterprise, I'll let you know that in certain cases, and Henry will confirm, there may be some fiscal issues too because of a long time, for example, not having rate increases. There's getting to be with this budget, issues in certain enterprise departments. So I just advise you to have that as part of the study on what the cost is going to be.
Absolutely. And this motion, Mayor, is simply to have a workshop for the commercial residential, which are not included in our normal, Prop 218 rate increases. We just want to make sure the staff has, I know they've been working on this for a while, that the council actually see the alternatives to be able to provide the bulk pickup for commercial residents. All right, council.
And just a question to clarify, I know that I made the second, but would that include having the private solid waste providers?
Yes. Commercial residential is privatized, so it would be those vendors coming forward with our DPU staff on alternatives to do bulk pickup. All right, seeing no other discussion, council, we'll do roll call on this motion.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Karbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Capriolio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. We're on motion number 4, council. Motion to allocate up to $500,000 for the Maxi Parks Community Center cleanup of the contamination that was identified. Is there any questions?
Council President, if I may, Henry's on his way back. He has been working on the motions that you all just added. He and his staff need to really go over everything that you're approving to be ready for Thursday. So if we could just slow down a little bit. He's walking back to the budget office right now.
Sure.
Okay, if we
We
can
will
wait.
take it slow, but we should not be into the new motions for another 30 minutes.
But he still needs to know what you're all deciding about the ones that are on the table.
Okay.
Council President, I had a question on that. It was my understanding that there's federal and state money that's available for cleanup purposes. I hope that's true and could save our general fund dollars.
Yes.
For further allocation.
And Council Vice President, you're absolutely right. And this does not identify the general fund. It just identifies, it directs that we identify the money. My understanding is that we do have a current $800,000 revolving loan fund for these kind of cleanups that's funded by the state of California. So this motion is simply to identify the money and set it aside from the most appropriate funding source. And of course, the general fund would be the last one.
Oh, all right, perfect. But I was wondering if there's some funding that would not require matching or reimbursement. That would be the key question I would have as per your efforts at that center. Maxi Parks that's a great story. We honored him here at the council not too long ago, and a great man with a great story. So I fully support your efforts there. I just was hoping there were some other federal, state funds that could be clear, let alone a loan or matching fund. So I'm sure you've got that in your wheelhouse. You think of everything.
Thank you, Council Vice President. And we are looking at right now a current state revolving loan fund that doesn't require any city match. So that is going to be the first priority.
Council President.
Council Member Esparza?
Yeah, so can you give the cliff notes for the first couple motions? If the feed wasn't visible to me, I don't think it was visible to the public.
The first motion to direct the DPU department to come back with a feasibility study for development of community facilities district was approved by this council.
Not DPU.
DWD, Public Works Director. DPW. Thank you, Councilwoman Soria. Yes, and that was approved. The record shows 6-0 vote. I don't think we heard from you, Councilmember Esparza.
The feed wasn't up. I was sitting here, and then it popped up in the middle of the third motion for some reason.
There was a problem with the feed.
Yes, we understand there was a technical problem with the feed. So would you like to register a yes vote for the first motion, Councilmember?
I would, yes.
Thank you. The second motion that was approved was a motion to assure funding was allocated to complete the convenience center. That was approved 6-0. Would you like to register a yes vote, Councilmember?
Aye, yes.
Thank you. The third motion that was approved was a motion for a workshop by the Department of Public Utilities with options for bulk pickup for multifamily commercial resident users. And that was approved. And we're down to motion number 4 in the Parks Department to allocate up to $500,000 for the Maxi Parks Community Center cleanup. And that's the motion on the floor. So if there's no other questions on that motion, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Kurbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Capriolio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes.
7-0.
Brianna, do you have enough time to get caught up? She needs a moment.
Sure.
Mr. President, we started without her. In the courtroom, you can't do that. You can't start without the clerk or the court reporter, so, sorry. Very good.
Thank you, Brianna. All right, council, the motions are officially uploaded and are visual online as we stream this meeting on TV and on the internet. For the record, we are now on to motion number 5. Motion number 1, 2, 3, and 4 were unanimously passed by this council. For the record, motion number 5 was withdrawn. So we will move on. That was replaced with motion number 11, which we will discuss when we get to number 11. We are down to motion number 6 from Council Member Mike Carbasi. Motion is to direct the city staff to meet with the sheriff, U.S. attorney, and district attorney to explore partnerships for targeting the validated gang members and have the ability to hold them in jail. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Kurbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Capriolio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. All right, council, that motion passes unanimously. We are now on to motion number 7, which was withdrawn and replaced with motion number 29. So we will consider motion 29 when we get to it. That allows us to move to motion number 8, a motion to start the planning process to explore the building of a fire training facility. Member Soria made the motion. Is there any discussion for this item? Seeing none, we will go to roll call.
Just want to make sure, because I know that the chief provided a presentation that included the $450,000 for the architectural plans for a fire training facility. Councilmember Bredefeld, are you okay with including that as part of our motion so that we can have a
Yes.
plan moving forward?
Absolutely.
Assistant City Manager, Mr. Schott.
As City Manager had mentioned, we had not had a chance to look at the chief's proposal. And I recall the chief indicating that this training center may be in upwards of $20 million. So $450,000 for a design activity seems very thin. I'm not sure exactly what we're trying to accomplish there. Typically, we would see 10%, which would be $2 million.
So what we could do, this could be part of the portion for that, so that we could start the process. I know that there's a number of steps that need to be taken, be done before we get to any architectural
It
plans
might
and
be
designs.
good to have the chief explain exactly what she's trying to accomplish with the $450 or $450,000, so we understand that.
Chief, you're welcome to come to the podium.
We have plans that were developed probably 15 years ago. So I checked with Public Works and asked what would be an estimate if we were to recycle some older plans and bring those up to speed. This was in the ballpark, around 450. But again, it could be more than that, but I think it would be good to carve out a little money so we can move that process forward.
Signals here. I talked to our Public Works Director, and he thought that was a low price as well. As I said, we're usually looking at 10% as a rule of thumb.
So
So I think it's clear for me that the 450 is essentially a down payment because we anticipate it's on the lower end and that
But
there would
it
be a higher
begins
funding.
the process and at least it signals that we're gonna start
I
planning
don't know how
for-
you do a down payment on a contract, I guess, that's the question.
Well, but it starts moving us in the direction to have plans and so forth. We know that it's gonna be a pretty long process, but we would like to set money aside to begin the process. And that's how I would see it. So Councilmember Bredefeld, are you okay
Yeah,
with us
no.
amending that motion to
No,
include that?
I share that point of view. If it's not enough, then we don't move forward with it. Okay.
Well, and I guess we'll have to figure out later exactly how we move forward with design work with partial funding. I mean, we can put it out to bid and see just what that gets us, but I don't know too many design firms that are willing to move forward on a project like this with no guarantee of getting paid.
Assistant City Manager, thank you. Let me go to Member Carbasi.
Thank you. I have a potential solution. This is a long-term goal, and it's very important. Chief, could you come up for a second, please? There is another motion coming up about Fire Station 12 and trying to find land and build another fire station, because how long has that been a temporary station?
43 years.
43 years. Now, that $450,000 can go a really long way. I mean, I'm sure that's if 10% is the magic number, maybe we can allocate it towards this, but keep this on our radar, and then come back with potentially $2 million in the next budget for a training center. If you're amenable to that. If not, that's fine. But this is a really attainable goal, and that 450 can go a long, long way towards getting that a permanent fire station, which is located just south of my district.
Yeah, on Marks, just south of Shaw.
Thank you.
So, and I thank you for offering that, Councilmember Carbasi. I'd like to do both because I do believe that this has been an issue of conversation for a very long time. I see it as the council saying, hey, we have identified some dollars that could be as part of one-time capital project dollars that we could use. And if it's not enough for this fiscal year, we usually, when we're looking at bigger projects, we cobble up dollars for a couple fiscal years, knowing that the price tag may be a little bit higher, but I'd like at least to signal that this is a priority so that when the new administration comes in, they know that the council has already set aside funds to begin planning the process for this training facility.
So to clarify, we're saying we're going to put $450,000 aside for this, but there's not an expectation that we will move forward with the actual design work until we've secured the rest of the funding.
If I may, Assistant City Manager, whenever we bring forward a contract for design, it also includes the full funding for that design, right? So
Yes.
I think this, if I'm hearing my colleagues, this motion sets aside $450,000 with direction that when that design contract come back, the rest of the money be identified. Is that fair?
That's fair.
If I can weigh in. I think if that's the intent, is to put a deposit down, I guess, what you're saying, right? And then going forward, if there's the money to finish it, then finish it. Okay, I think that would probably.
Well, that clarifies things. So we can go out to bid for a design contract to build a training center and see what we come back with. And if there's a shortfall, which I anticipate there will be, then it can be addressed at that time.
Yeah, and I just one caveat. Based on our current budget we're looking at, it could be very challenging next year. Now, if the feds come in with the HEROES money, it could be a different story. So that's all I offered. I think to do it that way you're not committing to funds. If the money does come in, then we'll start the process. Okay.
Right. I think there's clarity on the motion. The motion is to proceed with setting aside the $450,000 towards this design with direction that when that contract comes forward, it is fully funded with the identified funding sources. So if there's no other discussion, we'd like to go to roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. Next motion, council, is motion number 10, our city clerk, to provide her one-time appropriations in the amount of $60,000 for the reclassification. from the city attorney's budget, and $10,000 for the document portal, and $50,000 for record management.
I think you skipped a motion.
Number 9, right?
Council President, number 9.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. We'll go back to number 9. A motion for staff to come back in 90 days with a plan for acquisition of land for fire station number 12. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to roll call.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Kurbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Capriolio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. All right, we're back to being on track. Motion number 10. Can I get a roll call? There's no other discussion. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Sure. Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Kurbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Vice President Capriolio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. Thank you. That passes unanimously. Council motion number 11, replace motion number 5, move the printing division and its budget to the city clerk's office. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll go to roll call, please.
Just point of clarification for the maker. When would be the effective date for the transition, Councilmember Soria?
I don't know how many days we need for transition. I'm open to that, but I think that within the next couple months, if we could move them.
I would
January 1st?
I don't think, yeah, that's fine.
January 1st?
Council President?
Yes, give me 1 second, Mayor, really quick. Does the maker of the motion, are they open to the friendly amendment to make it effective January 1st? Councilwoman Soria? Are you open to the amendment to make it effective January 1st?
That is fine.
Councilmember Butterfield, are you okay with that amendment? All right, now, before we go for a vote, Mayor, you have the floor.
I'm going to go on the record opposing it. I would be okay if it would be a review, a study of it for, say, 90 days and come back in January, because this is really going to impact my successor. So I've got to be, careful, and I'm not sure he supports this. So at least would give him the opportunity to weigh in directly if you did essentially studied it and came back in January to make a decision on it.
You can have that time period, Mayor, because it doesn't kick in until January 1st, so we could study.
I'd like to have at that point in time, another vote on it.
All right, council. So we've heard the mayor's comments. There's a motion, there's a second to make it effective January 1st. And as you know, Mayor and council, we might have to revisit this budget all over again early next year under council members blah, blah, blah's leadership. So at that time, I'm sure we can revisit some of the other motions. But until then, let's do roll call on this motion.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Kurbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Capriolio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. All right, council, that passes unanimously. Next motion is motion number 12, a motion to add $150,000 for furnishing and staff of the new neighborhood senior center in District 1. Councilman Soria, it's your motion. I would ask that you consider having this funded through the set aside of $5 million in parks that we are going to discuss later, but that's up to the maker of the motion. All right.
Question?
Councilmember Butterfield?
So this is the new senior center in that project that was on McKinney?
The Lingo project.
Yes. And so the question I have, it's $150,000 for furnishing and staff. Can you elaborate a little bit?
So they are essentially giving us the building, the 2,000 square feet for $1 a year. It needs to be furnished. We need to have tables, computers, and so forth, and some of the amenities that the seniors have expressed over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So that's what part of the funding. And then we do need some part-time staff to be able to staff the center. The hope is that we're working very closely with Fresno City College, and we have a commitment with them so that they can help us as part of a partnership.
Thank you.
My question is when to expect that to cut the ribbon?
In March, we'll make sure to invite you.
It's a great idea.
Let the record show, Council Vice President will be invited to ribbon cutting in March. All right, Council, we'll do roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Kurbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Capriolio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. Motion number 14 is a motion to not defund the Parks Department and for the City Council to commit to supporting the construction of the multi-gen center at CW Large Park. Is there anything to add? If not, we'll go to roll call.
You skipped 13, Council President?
Oh my God. Clearly, I'm not seeing straight today. Let me revert back to motion number 13, a motion to add $5 million to the Parks Department budget. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld.
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza.
Aye.
Councilmember Karbasi.
Aye.
Councilmember Soria.
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprillo.
Yes.
And President Arias.
Yes. Thank you, Council Member Chavez, for reminding me. We'll go back to motion number 14. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld.
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza.
Aye.
Councilmember Karbasi.
Aye.
Councilmember Soria.
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprillo.
Yes.
President Arias.
Yes. That takes us, Council, to motion number 15, a motion by Member Soria for planning to work with the Economic Development Division in planning and permitting for a facade improvement program. If there's no discussion, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld.
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza.
Aye.
Councilmember Karbasi.
Aye.
Councilmember Soria.
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprillo.
Yes.
President Arias.
Yes. The next motion is to allocate $100,000 in general fund towards the rehabilitation of the building at 4403 East Tulare. That's a motion by Member Esparza. Member Esparza, would you mind that money coming from the $5 million set aside in the Parks Department?
That is fine. I have some other projects in mind as well, but we don't need to codify them here.
Thank you. With that clarity.
Question. Councilman Esparza, could you elaborate? So this is towards rehabbing the building for Fresno Barras Anitas?
That's correct, yes. We voted on this in the June budget, but it was supposed to be from CDBG. The administration did not include it in the CDBG. So here we are back at budget asking for this general fund.
And why was it not allocated from the CDBG funds?
It was a recommendation from staff council member that the CDBG would take a while since it was part of the original CONAP, and the CONAP wouldn't be updated till November of this year, and that it was more expeditious for us to just take out the general fund than CDBG.
Okay.
All right. Councilmember Karbasi?
Clarifying question. Somebody sent me a document with the income statement, the tax return for this organization as of 2018, and they had quite a lot of money on hand. Forget the organization, just in general policy. If this is a one-time capital expense, do we normally do this if they have a lot of money on hand?
Yes. Give me an example. 2 years ago, we did $750,000 for the Marjorie Mason Center for the rehabilitation of their kitchen area. And they, of course, have some reserves because any organization must have cash on hand in case of, the financial difficulties like a recession that we're in. Thank you for the question. If there's no other questions, we'll go to roll call.
Council President, if I may interrupt.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask the question. I heard that if this motion is approved, then the funding would be part of the $5 million?
Yes.
Okay.
We're trying to save you some money, Henry, by doing as many parks-related things and public facilities from the $5 million in parks.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
And one final question. On the rehab of $100,000, how did we get $100,000? Was there an assessment done? Did somebody do some work to determine that number?
My understanding is it's a cost of replacing the roof, and that's been one of those things that has been submitted for proposal to the CDBG.
Okay, I mean, is it something the administration has gotten paperwork on? I mean, I'd like to know where's this number come from? Is this something that they submitted to the city? I mean,
so typically,
maybe the solution would be, let's say it costs $75,000. We'll allocate up to $100,000, and then whatever the remainder is goes back to the general fund or whatever.
Correct.
Okay.
It's up to $100,000.
okay, so it should reflect that. And
Any reflects that if we don't spend the money, obviously it gets reprogrammed or it doesn't get spent. So I don't think there's any need to change the motion itself.
I think what Councilmember Esparza is saying, and please correct me, Nelson, so you're allocating up to $100,000 to cover those costs. It's a given, you're saying, that if we're not going to just give $100,000. We're going to pay directly to them for whatever invoice they give us from the contractor, correct?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Okay, and just finally, before we take a vote, is there any, from the administration, any issue with this motion?
I think just the same issue you had had is in that we would pay only what the actual cost was.
Okay.
I think that's clear.
You could add not to exceed $100,000.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we're all saying the same thing.
Okay.
So nobody gets a blank check around here.
Okay.
All right, with that, let's do roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. We're next up to motion number 17 by Councilmember Esparza to allocate $150,000 for Focus EIR to assess the increasing the density of all mixed-use districts. Is there any discussion for this motion? Seeing none, we'll go to roll call.
Yeah, one question. What was the funding source? I missed that.
Planning.
Planning Department's budget, planning development.
Okay. Have we cleared that with the director?
I would direct that question to the makers of the motion.
It works backwards, Council Member Caprielio.
Okay.
They check with us.
Good luck.
All right.
Good luck.
Let's roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. So council, we're up to lunch. I wanted to work a little longer into lunch just a bit. We have ordered some Chef Paul or Chicken Shack lunch for you guys if you need to step out. But I'm hoping to just try and get through a little bit more motions before we go into lunch break, if that's okay with the group.
Well, the only problem is knowing that we were breaking at 12, I set up a meeting at 12:15. I mean, that's
We
my
have
difficulty.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think we
We
could.
got momentum. I'm worried about
Let's
losing
keep
the
going.
momentum.
Let's see if we can get you out of here by 12:15.
I got to be there at 12:15.
They'll wait for you.
It'll be fine, it'll be fine. All
Councilmember
right.
Bredefeld, you'll still be able to vote on the budget on Thursday. So, it's just a pre-show.
All right, council, motion number 18 to allocate $275,000 for a comprehensive fiscal impact analysis. If there's no discussion, let's go for a roll call.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. 19, motion to set double the actual amount and reduce the $1.5 million in refund and claims. If there's no discussion, let's go for a vote.
Question. Did somebody explain that to me?
Councilwoman Soria?
I think what we had seen was that we were allocating a pretty significant amount of money. I believe that the first year was 350, or no, about 7 something. We only expended about 350. The following year, we put 1.5 million. We only expended $750,000. This year, we put 3 million. So on the trend, it seems like we've only utilized half of it. So I'm saying let's free up some of those general fund dollars and only allocate really what.
So 1.5, is that the allocation?
1.5.
Okay, thank you.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. Council motion 20 to convert a fire captain to admin battalion chief. Is there any discussion? If not, let's do roll call.
Could we take the next 3 motions together?
Let's do separately, just not to confuse people.
Okay, fine.
What is the cost on that? I don't have that in my notes.
Yeah, right here.
Is that part of the presentation? I have it
Yes.
from the chief, so we're
Yes.
not motioning this at one time from the chief's perspective, her proposal for utilizing the 2.2 million? Is that a separate vote?
Will be separate.
Okay, very good, thank you.
All right, well, a motion on that. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
All right, yes. All right, motion number 21, to add an account
20.
auditor.
I think 20.
We already did.
Oh, 21, sorry.
Yeah, 21. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Yes.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. All right, now we're going to go to motion 22. Yes. Roll call on motion number 22, related to the GIS specialist.
Yeah.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. Now, council, allow me to skip to motion number 29 and 30 for the benefit of Councilmember Bredefeld. If we can go to those motions first. Motion number 29. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll do roll call.
Roll call.
All right, roll call.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. All right, council. Let's do item number 30.
I think
Roll
number
call, please.
Council President.
Yes.
I think number 30 is redundant. A bit redundant to 29. Councilmember Carbasi, could you elaborate just a little bit on the two CSOs we added in number 29?
Sure. So what number 29 did was it changed the initial motion that you and Council Vice President made to instead of two CSOs in the general fund budget, it's going to be those are going to be through public utilities to support some of the functions of public utilities, and it's going to allocate 2 new sworn positions through the general fund. But if you did want to add 2 more CSOs, I mean, you can always do that as well to the regular budget. That's really up to you. I know that we have, it would be nice if we had 1 for each council district. I know there's a lot of challenges there with that.
Okay, well, let's call the question.
All right, let's call the question. And I think to your question, Member Esparza, we still need motion number 30 to make number 29 work. So let's do roll call on motion number 30.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. Thank you, council. We'll return to motion number 23, a motion to authorize the Public Works to pave the road between Shaw and Barstow, also known as Capriolio Way. Councilmember Capriolio, would you like to?
I didn't hear the question.
What street is it?
It's Cedar Avenue between Shaw and Barstow. We've paved from Shields all the way through my district in recent times, and this is the only gap between that and Bullard. And then the Bullard boundary is where Member Bredefeld takes over, and that would be his motion someday.
So for the record, the motion clarifies that the authorization is to pave Cedar Avenue between Shaw and Barstow.
Correct.
And that would be from Councilmember Capriolio's infrastructure budget?
What's left? Possibly. I think we've got the funding lined out, notwithstanding my colleagues' desire to spend my hard-saved money for the constituents of District 4, but thank you for the idea.
Saving for a rainy day.
So that's when you raise poor, that's what you do.
All right, let the record show that it's going to come from Council Member-elect Maxwell's budget.
Well, it could be SB1. There's several sources that I've discussed with the city manager's office, so it'll be done not this season, but I want to make sure it's ready to go now before I leave, so there's no mistakes about it in the future, so everyone can enjoy their Fresno State football games and not be on a rutty, banged-up road when they enjoy the university and all its attributes. Thank you.
So in all seriousness, the funding source has not been identified at this point?
We know. We know, Jim.
Correct.
Put it on the dock as funding permits.
As you know, Jim, when you guys bring the construction projects forward, at that point, you have to identify the funding source. So at that time, Councilmember-elect Maxwell's budget will be well-equipped to handle this cost.
Whoa, okay. No argument from me.
Councilmember Butterfield?
No, I'm going to vote on this, and then I've.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. Motion number 24 to fund $1 million towards the recommendation of the Commission on Police Reform. Roll call, please.
Okay, we have discussion.
Sure.
I don't doubt that we have to allocate some money because we need to have reform, reasonable reform, but we don't know what the recommendations are. There's a draft report, but how are we going to manage that? Will we come back maybe mid-year and reconcile if it's less?
I think our goal right now is to identify money in the budget, set it aside, and of course, when the recommendations come to this body, we will also determine what recommendations can be funded with these limited
Okay.
resources.
Understood. Thank you.
All right. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld is absent. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Yes.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes.
President, I just suggest we take a break for lunch, or?
Can we go through? We're almost done.
Okay.
All right. I'll promise to have good chicken lunch for you. Motion number 25 to fund $250,000 in Public Works for a truck study in partnership with the Air District. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. Motion 26 to explore a conversation regarding the rights to counsel program for people facing eviction. Councilmember Esparza, you have the motion. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, so I mean, I made the motion for purpose of discussion. You know, the folks who have been sending us the information in these letters, as well as the folks who came to speak today, I think have made some great points just in terms of our preventative measures. I think we've seen our homeless population increase. That increase has been accelerated throughout COVID, despite our eviction measures, anti-eviction measures. So I thought this certainly warranted discussion. And wanted to explore what level of CARES Act funding we could potentially allocate to such a program.
Can I add a comment? So, good point. If we can use CARES Act dollars, Central California Legal Services does a lot of good work to ensure that tenants and people know of their legal rights. So, would the CARES Committee want to request something from them so that we can basically fund their efforts to do that?
Yeah.
They're the experts.
I think council, if I'm hearing the council, you recommend that we work with CCLS and have them bring forward a proposal to the CARES Act COVID Committee, assuming there's money, and then if there is, we'll bring it back to the council for consideration.
Well, how does Councilmember Esparza feel about that?
That's fine with me. I would say when you say we work with CCLS, I mean that probably means Doug in his office.
Yes.
Council President?
Yes.
I'm assuming that this motion is rights to counsel as in legal counsel?
Yes.
Not counsel as in
Correct.
The body. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I think we have a...
All right. So roll call vote to explore the proposal for this project to be referred to the COVID Committee for consideration.
Councilmember Bredefeld is absent. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes. Motion number 27, motion that we prioritize funding to prevent evictions on tenant eviction rights and provide financial assistance beyond December 2020. Councilman Soria?
No, so as I recalled this morning, just want to make sure that the housing retention program, which we have operating until December 31st because of the Federal CARES Act. I want to make sure that this council continues to fund even beyond that to ensure that we prevent evictions. And we could either identify CDBG or any other general fund source that may be available to continue providing those housing retention grants that help the tenants and also the landlords.
Councilman, if I'm understanding your motion is simply to, at this point, explore the option of extending those resources based on availability of funding?
Not explore. I think that we should do it, and I think that there is a way to do it. Like right now, we have $5 million allocated for it. If the organizations that were given the ability to process those are unable, I feel like we have to find a way to make sure that we can expand the program beyond December. So I don't want to just explore it. I want to make sure that we do it.
Councilman Carbasi?
No doubt that we have to be concerned about the fallout from the recession and COVID-19. And I think we've taken action to ensure that we provide support for business and residential tenants. I don't mind the motion. I just worry about the and/or general fund savings from unfilled positions, because my understanding is it's not going to include public safety, but we don't know what's going to happen in the next year, and it may come to we need to fill a position in order to be able to get some federal tax dollar grants. And if we have a change in administration, there's going to be a whole new plethora of hopefully opportunities. So
we can amend the general fund savings from unfilled positions. There are other sources of funding. For example, I can identify. Today we approved a motion to reduce the amount of the reimbursements, right? From, what did we say? We're going from 3 million to 1.5. You have $1.5 million there. Doug's office, you have about $700,000 that we haven't touched, right? Remember? CARES Act. So there is about $2 million that we could set aside for this, and I've identified them there. So
Councilwoman,
leave it open then?
Yes.
To be clear, you'd like to remove the general fund savings from your motion?
And we can go, and I've already identified 2 sources of funding that haven't been.
Okay.
Council President, I make the same echo that what Councilman Carbasi said. We've got a lot of stuff out there. We've got to balance it out. As long as it leaves out the general fund for now, I'm okay with it.
All right, so Councilman, may you be clear? You will amend your motion to remove savings from the general fund vacancies and instead replace it with other funding sources.
Like I've identified, or CDBG.
Correct.
And thank you, Councilmember Soria, for working with me. I appreciate that.
Perfect.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bertefeld is absent. Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza.
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi.
Aye.
Councilmember Soria.
Yes.
Council Vice President Capriolia.
Absent.
President Arias.
Yes. Motion passes. We're now down to motion 28 to allocate $100,000 for the groundwork of a cottage home program. If there's no discussion, let's do roll call.
There is discussion. Councilmember Carbasi, do you elaborate just a tad bit on what you mean by the cottage home program?
Sure. So I visited Clovis with Councilmember-elect Tyler Maxwell, and we met with their deputy planning director out there. And they have this program where they've been able to, in a very limited capacity, find use for their alleyways. Now, these cottage homes are not actually in the alleyways. They're basically a single-family home, and you're able to build up to 500 square feet a cottage home. And the way it works is they created a set of plans with different elevations. There's
All right, so you can stop. I understand now. It's an accessory dwelling unit. I
basically,
understand.
right.
I do you. Sure.
All right.
Okay.
Roll call. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bertefeld is absent. Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza.
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi.
Aye.
Councilmember Soria.
Yes.
Council Vice President Capriolia is absent, and President Arias.
Yes. All right, that brings us to motion number 31.
Excuse me, Council President?
Yes.
I need a point of clarification.
Yes.
And it's for the motion 27 that you just passed. I just want to make clear, I heard that the language that said general fund savings from unfilled position to be removed.
Yes,
Yeah, so
and
that's-
replaced with other funding sources.
For example, the ones that I mentioned. There's CDBG as well as the ones that I mentioned. Henry.
Council, I have to be clear. So, and I don't mean to throw a wrench, but the one option that you referenced to, Councilmember Soria, under the economic incentives, that's not general fund, it's a special revenue. It cannot
Okay.
be used for anything else other than that.
Okay.
Well, we can explore.
Yeah, so whatever other, that's, maybe we'll just keep it as.
Other
what-
funding
Other funding
sources
sources.
available. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Just taking a minute for points of clarification. So, Councilmember Soria, I don't see on the new motion sheet your motion to eliminate positions over 365 days old. Did you submit that to Henry during the break?
That was.
It's part of my amended motion.
It's part of his motion.
Which motion? In motion 32?
Yes. All right, can we get back to the motions and we'll get to that one? We're almost done, folks. About 4 more motions and we can break for lunch. We're down to motion number 31. Motion to allocate $250,000 towards improvements of Logan Park. Councilmember Carbasi, I would just ask you to consider it coming from the $5 million we set aside for parks.
But I think you said 500,000. That's fine.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'll do that. Yeah.
If you'd like to take Tyler Maxwell's money, that's fine with me.
That's fine.
I do want to just clarify that the 250,000 may not cover everything that Councilmember Carbasi indicated. I think that was just for the playground.
Yes, I understand it's an estimate. And Member Carbasi, I've been trying to, fix the grass in JSK Park, and it started with 50,000. Now it's up to 300,000, and it's a whole lot of irrigation stuff. So you'll be fully forewarned.
Yeah, I think the good point, Council President. The irrigation tends to be quite expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Council, roll call on this motion.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President Capriolio? President Arias?
Yes. We're down to council motion number 32, a motion that the position authorization resolution contain only those positions council approved in the FY21 budget in June, and any council motions that were made. And the amendment was that we also that we eliminate any positions more than, that have been vacant more than 365 days.
So in response to that, because you said we
Yes.
could talk about this and debate it when it comes up, I have every one of my directors here that this impacts, and I would love for you to give them each a few minutes, because it does impact their departments and the service levels that we'll be able to provide. So
Understood. Before you go there, City Manager, I'd like to have council consider any amendment from the Councilwoman Soria. Would you like to amend your motion?
I think there was some discussion about setting the positions aside, the new administration working with the subcommittee. Is that something that could happen? I know that a lot of these positions have been vacant over a year. Wouldn't impact any positions that are being processed. I think that was one of the questions that was brought up as point of clarification as well. So if there are positions that are in the queue to be hired that have been vacant for more than a year, also would.
And and all the rest gets put aside until the new administration comes.
Mhm.
So there's no elimination then between now and January 1st, to be clear.
Correct.
Yes, there will be no elimination.
And just one more clarification. I think we mentioned earlier, this does not apply to public safety sworn and
Correct.
unsworn positions in fire, PD, and code enforcement.
Yes.
My question is, who's on the subcommittee?
It would be up to the new council president on the budget subcommittee.
Which one?
The current budget subcommittee right now is Council Member Soria, Capriolio,
Oh, budget
and Chavez.
subcommittee.
Budget
Okay,
subcommittee.
thank you.
All right, since we have clarity, I think we've addressed the staff's concern, so we're okay. We've created enough exemptions for public safety. We've also allowed those that are already in the queue to proceed in the queue, and those that are still not in the queue or making progress toward being filled, the new administration will work with the new council to resolve
And
those.
I know my directors appreciate that, so thank you all.
Yeah.
And I did want to just make a comment because I know that it came up during ISD. Brian mentioned there's been assistant director position vacant, I think, for almost 2 years. it hasn't really been necessary from the questions that we asked, but he did want to figure out a plan to convert them for other positions that are necessary to continue to provide the capacity to fulfill the needs that exist now with there being more need for technology. So hopefully he will present something to come back to the council. I know that that was part of the conversation during the ISD section of the budget.
All right, and like as council, at any time, any council meeting, staff can come forward with a position request or repurposing of positions that we can consider. All right, council, let's roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredesfeld is absent. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Yes.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President is absent. President Arias?
Yes. All right, motion 33, a motion to direct the city manager to prioritize the processing of all digital billboard applications and bring them forward for council's consideration in the next 30 days if it requires council approval.
So I have some questions about this one.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm assuming this is all out front media. There are 3 right now in the queue, and all 3 of those locations, which are Granite Park, Veterans Boulevard, and the one at 41 and Howard, we're all waiting for things. Sorry, I should have waited.
It's okay. I'm just taking extra precautions.
Yeah, and for the record, I know that the clerk wanted me to publicly say that the motion by Councilmember Soria was withdrawn, and I made the second to that motion.
All right, and let the record show that Councilwoman is exited the dais just as a precaution for any conflict of interest.
So 3 of the billboards that are in queue right now, we're all waiting on things from out front. So we can't approve a project if we don't have plans. They've been put on notice, and so I would love your motion to say as soon as we have a complete set of plans, we will process within 30 days.
Sounds like the money back guarantee.
Yeah. So here's my concern, if I may. As you know, city manager, we always hear from applicants saying that it's stuck at City Hall, and then we hear from City Hall saying the applicant hasn't done something. So I would like, city managers, you guys bring it back in 30 days. If it's a hiccup from the applicant, then just give us a memo indicating that it's the applicant who's not taking action. But within 30 days, you at least come back and report, whether things are moving or not moving.
Hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but I don't think we need to wait 30 days to provide status indicating that the supply or the applicant hasn't provided all the information. We can do that probably next week in a trade memo.
And then we can follow up in 30 days and let you know that we still haven't received anything if that is the case.
And if that's the case, city manager, if the applicant hasn't done their part in the next 30 days, then there's nothing for you to bring forward.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this question. So the reason I'm moving forward with this is that we're in a very tight financial situation. This is a chance to have another revenue stream, and we've been waiting on this for a long time. Assistant City Manager, how much you've been communicating with the applicant, and I think you kind of know where the council feels where we are on this issue. How can we ensure we make one last try, giving them a list of what they have to turn in so we can move forward? I think that would be really important.
And Aldi has been following this quite closely. We can continue to handhold them, but there's only so much we can do there, to be honest with you. We can't draw the plans for them.
No, I'm not asking for that. Sometimes things get lost and people get confused, and I want to make sure they know very clear cut, this is what you have to do so the council can make a decision.
Councilmember Carbasi, this is a national company that does this in other cities. We're not the only one, and we have met with them countless times. I've put Aldi on this to track it because it is revenue generating for the city, and unfortunately they have not produced.
And I will say, there are certain projects where we deal with inexperienced applicants, such as nonprofits, and we tend to try and hold their hands to get things through. But in this case, I agree with City Manager in that this company makes their living doing this, and they've struggled to provide the information to us to execute the billboard. So we can continue to hold their hands and try and get things through and guide them in the process, but they have to step up.
Let me just clarify. I wasn't suggesting you hold their hand. I just want to make sure they're very clear that we're assured they know what they need to do. Were we there?
My microphone's not working. Okay, I can guarantee you, they know what they need.
Got it.
100%.
Okay.
I appreciate that. That's what I needed to hear.
All right, thank you. Let's go roll call, please, on the motion.
Councilmember Bredefeld is absent. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria is recused. Council Vice President is absent. President Arias?
Yes. Motion 34, to reallocate to the $250,000 for the money back guarantee program to fund a grocery store incentive program. Councilwoman Soria, we need you back in the room if you can hear us.
We do roll call?
We'll let Councilmember Carbasi go get her.
Clark for this item.
Yes.
Jennifer? Yeah, whenever this motion was made, I wasn't certain of this either. And Jennifer, I'm glad you brought that up. Money back guarantee, is there money right now that's available to be allocated toward this motion?
So, excuse me, sorry. Jennifer Clark, Director of Development and Resource Management. So the way that this is written into the budget is essentially this is set aside as a revenue loss stopgap. There isn't money. It isn't real money, right? So it's if we get funds from a prospective applicant and we don't deliver, we give them their same money back. So it isn't that there are monies set that are budgeted that we would be bringing in that we could then reallocate somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So basically, it's a refund.
Yes.
So my intent is I've heard from the private sector and from our public partners that the money back guarantee isn't working, that simply is just delaying other projects from either being accepted as incomplete or delaying our internal public works projects to be at the end of the line. So I will modify my motion to not include the money factor, but my motion is to eliminate the money back guarantee program. And that's my motion.
Yep.
All right, is there a second for my motion?
Second.
All right, it's been seconded. Let's do roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld is absent. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Council Vice President is absent. President Arias?
Yes. All right, Council, we're done with the official motions on paper, but I want to make sure that we're all clear. There was a motion during the budget process to allocate $2.2 million to the fire department from all the fire inspection fees. I know we've just approved positions, but my understanding of this budget process was that we're going to approve the fire chief's proposal and that we're going to grant some of the funds in the form of positions now. So I want to make sure that we have that discussion so we can all be clear about next steps.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Council President Henry Fierro, Budget Manager. Again, I just want to be sure we're all clear, but there was a direction that was established to understand what additional services would be provided, but there was not a formal motion that was made at any time. So
You're right. So thank you for that clarity. So as of now, the only direction council to staff is to direct staff to inform us of what additional services customers were going to get based on the increase in fire inspection fees.
So at this point, based on what the chief provided, I'm not sure if we've fulfilled that motion in providing you actual services that would increase. We provided a wish list of things to spend money on. Is that correct?
Council, is it your understanding?
That this is a wish list? Is that what you're saying?
I don't see this submittal as additional services provided to the community.
And we want to clarify that that's what you wanted. You wanted a list of additional services that the community would benefit from if you allocated this $2 million to the fire department, correct?
Well, the resources, and I think for me it was the allocation of positions which would provide increased services. For example, if we have if we added the 21 firefighters, what that would mean, and I think that the chief essentially told us where those folks would go.
Okay, and I just wanted to
so-
clarify that this is sufficient for
Yes.
council's needs.
For me, it was. And I know that part of the motions that we have already voted included dollars for a number of the things outlined here. I know that there may have been some interest to do in Council Member Capriolio. Did I say that right?
Perfect.
I know that
About
earlier.
time.
I know that I've been practicing 6 years. I know that earlier you brought up the question whether we needed to make a motion, and that's probably where we're at.
Okay.
If we want to make a motion to incorporate the other things that the fire chief had presented to us.
I'd like to clarify one thing too, just so we're all on the same page. So when we brought the increased fire fees to council earlier this year, fire department wasn't even breaking even, and that was part of the reason why we were increasing the fees, if you remember. So this additional proposal does not, it's above and beyond. They're still not breaking even, they're just adding another $2 million on top of everything. So I would love an opportunity to work with the chief to figure out what is that break-even point, the extra positions that you've already approved, and then on top of that, what's left over that she can spend the $2 million on.
If I can add, City Manager, and I actually really appreciate you working with me on the SAFER proposal, because my biggest priority is ensuring that we get more bodies and being able to have money for the drill schools. So I do appreciate you working with me on that. That is my biggest priority. There are a lot of other priorities the chief identified, and I guess the way we're looking at it is we can allocate all the money we want. We just want to make sure the people on the ground who deal with it every day know how to spend it right, and she's probably the best person to do that. So
I think your idea is a good idea. I like it.
Council President?
Happen. I would like to do that maybe in a workshop form in an upcoming meeting this calendar year. We can do it early November. But so if you want to allocate the $2 million to the fire department with the positions that were already approved by council today, then we can come back and figure out how to spend the rest. But it's most important to me that she break even first on the services that she's providing, that we increase the fees for to begin with.
So prioritize according to the chief, and then we can implement.
Exactly.
Chief, does that sound okay to you?
Council, if you allow me, Chief, can you come forward? Because we're trying to be helpful to the fire department and to the folks who use the fire services without creating an additional stumbling block for you by, going too deep into the positions and whatnot. So, as I understand it correctly, the council would like the budget to reflect the $2.2 million, approving the $2.2 million plan and allocating some of the money immediately, including the positions that we authorized today. Are you on the same wavelength as this, Chief?
Yeah, yes, I am. And this proposal has associated improvements throughout the entire department and therefore results in better improvement for services to our citizenry. And I could go through what each one of them translate into, but I don't think that's necessary. These are not new. This is not new information. This is the same things we've been bringing forward for the last several years. That's true. We did bring forward the fees back in March, and you approved that. And we did discuss how we weren't recapturing the actual cost providing the service. But if you play the tape back, the council was very clear that they said, well, we will approve these fees with appropriate increase in services, additional services. So I think there was an acknowledgement that yes, we were going to continue that process of maybe not covering all the cost of those fee increases, but rather come back with some increased or improved services for the department. And I think that's what you're trying to do. But I'm willing to make some changes or adjustments to move this forward.
I think we all want to get to the same place. I'm going to ask a question for administration. Do we have to take a motion about the 3 positions?
We already did. The council already voted on those positions. The only thing I'm trying to gather, council, is does the administration, the fire chief, and the council, are we on the same page about this $2 million in this plan for $2 million, the positions that are being authorized, and that she has a green light to proceed with the hiring of the additional firefighters?
Council President, just point of clarification. It said for fiscal year 21 that this could add the 21 firefighters. So is it our understanding that right now the current budget doesn't have those dollars, so we would have to make a motion? I know that the other 3 additional positions were voted on, but I wanted to make sure that the 21 firefighter 8-week recruit school.
Councilmember Soria, so in the revised budget, there is no appropriations for those positions.
Wait a minute. In the original SAFER bill this council passed that I work with the city manager on, please correct me, it required identifying that funding for a drill school so that if we do apply and get awarded the grants, we just had to move forward. There's no point in doing it if you don't have funding for a drill school. So what am I missing?
Right here, that you got to make a motion.
Okay.
So that's the point, council, is that the current revised budget does not actually include the authority for the additional firefighter positions, which your previous act would have required. So we simply just want to do this in the form of a motion, so we're all clear.
Okay, then I make a motion to do just that.
All on the same page, yet again. Okay, so 2 million for the fire department, minus, from that 2 million, we're taking the positions that you approved today for the fire department, plus the additional money needed for the drill school so that we could apply for the SAFER grant when it's open again. And then I would like to meet with Chief to find out what is her break even to cover the staff costs to approve the fire inspections and plan review and the whole bit. And then if there's any excess money, then come back to council about that money. Fair enough?
Chief, does that work for you? I want to make sure that we don't have to do any more sidebar conversations after today.
And this will result in some quantifiable improvements to the community related to public safety.
Yes, Chief?
So I want to make sure we're clear.
Yeah.
It's directing me to apply for 42 firefighters. 21 will be in FY21 with a $586,000 price tag. The 3 positions you already made a motion on.
Yes.
And then we will revisit and huddle with the city manager's office on any additional funds that we could set aside with quantifiable service improvements.
We did include the 450,000 though for the training facility, so that was motioned and approved.
Right, I was just going to ask that.
So that was.
And
so
to clarify, I meant that the entire amount would result in quantifiable improvements.
I'll second Member Carbasi's motion.
All right, so for the record, Member Carbasi's motion is to move forward with incorporating in the budget the additional firefighter positions, reflecting the additional positions that were added and voted on by this council in the previous motions, reflecting the 450,000 towards the design aspect, and everything else necessary to complete this, proposed plan by the fire chief. There's a second?
Seconded.
Let's do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld is absent. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza?
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Aye.
Councilmember Soria?
Aye.
Council Vice President Caprillo?
Yes.
President Arias?
Yes.
Council
The only
President?
thing.
Go ahead.
Council
No,
Vice
I
President.
just wanted to make a comment. I just want to make sure that we treat folks, equally. I don't ever see us like when we're doing and allocating resources to PD to do the same. So I just like to make sure that when we're talking about fire, we don't hold them to a different expectation than we do PD. I think that it is very critical that we, for me, fire is as important as PD in our community. And I want to make sure that our chief knows and that she does not feel by the comments that are made that, we are holding them to a different standard than PD when allocating resources. I just want to make that clear. That's important to me.
I would concur with you. I think the only difference is this last year we raised inspection fees for customers, and we want to make sure that those customers also receive the better benefit. It just doesn't remain somewhere in the darkness of the general fund. So that's the only difference in this context. But Council Vice President, you have the floor.
Thank you. I missed item 33 on the digital billboard applications. Within 30 days, I look at my calendar, within 30 days we have the November 5th meeting and the November 19th meeting, so this package would come before us possibly on the 5th, but no later than the 19th, is that
Yes,
correct?
correct.
Good, thank you.
Councilmember Caprillo, it'll just be in the form of a tray memo.
If it doesn't require council action.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it requires council action. No?
Yeah,
Oh.
some do not, based on the
Council President.
variances.
Very good.
Yes.
Council President, I want to recommend that we have a meeting with the Budget Subcommittee before the budget vote on Thursday.
Okay. Council, let me just share with you, Mike Carbasi. I think we still have a quorum. So, yeah, we have member as far as via virtual. So just for process, we're still waiting for the additional detailed information from staff. I know you guys are really busy. So with that said, we might move the final budget vote from this Thursday till next Thursday to give everybody more time to give us all the information, get all the motions done, and for the conversations to take place, if necessary, between the budget subcommittee and the mayor.
When do you think we'll know?
Let's talk later tomorrow. We'll make a decision by tomorrow. But just tentative in your schedules, a final budget vote may take place as late as next Thursday.
Henry, how long will you need? How long will you need to get the data back? We can, on the financial implications of all these motions.
I need today, Mayor, to work through them.
Okay.
And then,
Okay.
So we should be ready by tomorrow to meet.
Okay, then we will work through it and just tentative, hold your calendars for Thursday of next week if necessary. All right, thank you all. This concludes our budget hearings for the day and our budget motions.
Council President, I have one more motion.
Oh, let's make sure we still have a quorum. Go ahead.
We still have 4 folks here?
Yes.
Depends on the motion, sir.
So going back to motion number 30, Councilmember Carbasi's motion, and allocating the 2 sworn positions, I wanted to make a motion to allocate them specifically to the homeless task force.
I think we should wait on that till Member Carbasi's here to see if he's in agreement with that.
And I thought we didn't want PD involved anymore in homeless activities, so I think we all need to get on the same
So,
page with that.
Councilmember Esparza, if I may ask, can you just circle with the maker of the motion, Member Carbasi, between now and Thursday or the next time that we meet, and maybe we can resolve that then?
Sure, yeah, we have council on Thursdays. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you all. This concludes our budget hearings for today at 12:50. Staff, there's lunch for you if you want to come by and get some chicken.